Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Tech Day. This is the presentation of the LazeWorx Recliner Desk. My name is Rick Azid, and this is for Dr. Doherty's Principles of Marketing class. So, for our product, the Recliner Desk was born out of my own personal experience due to my very small house that I share with my wife and 3 boys and cats and dogs. It became necessary to actually build a workspace around my recliner, as it was kind of my only spot in the house at that time. And what I wanted to do was use my computer at my recliner. And through trial and error, I rigged a couple of different devices up. I had an end table, I had a monitor arm, a keyboard tray that was just a board laying across the arms, and it really didn't work. And eventually the product completely failed. But when Dr. Doherty asked us to invent the product, I decided to resurrect those ideas and see if I could actually really truly build something that would work. And this is the end product. And it is not to scale, and when I say end product, I mean this is what I believe is a functioning design. It is not fine-tuned, it is not polished, but it is a model of what I want to demonstrate and what I want to go to manufacturers or engineers as an idea. So the idea is this would be the recliner, and it would sit on this structure. And let me take this off here so I can show you what makes a difference here. So as you can see, if these were both 2 end tables, kind of on either side of the recliner, they are both attached to a base. And this base would probably be something much more pleasing than a piece of plywood, but it would be, say, brushed metal, something that would look more attractive. And both of the end tables would be attached to that base, and the recliner would sit on that base and would provide all the necessary counterbalance and counterweight to anything you want to do with these end tables. And what I found when I was doing this for myself was that having one end table on its own, as you can see, I had mounted a pole similar to this, and I had mounted a monitor arm to that, and what happened was the weight kept causing the end table to tip over. And what I needed was a way to counterbalance that weight and just to kind of solidify this particular structure and give it some structural integrity so it could support things weighted either on the outside or on the inside. And the idea I came up with was pretty much this base, and the recliner would sit on it and both end tables would be attached. So that's the basic idea. And this arm could have a lamp on top for aesthetic purposes. And this, during the construction of this model, I decided to try to make this an actual bookshelf and to do the same thing over here. So this kind of looked, after putting it all together, it looks, doesn't look exactly aesthetic. These stark edges here. So to put kind of a false, not even false, but a bookshelf in here would kind of make the whole unit look more pleasing in a room. And on this side, this particular hinge is here because when you're in a recliner, most of the mechanisms for putting the recliner in a reclining position are on the right-hand side, or either a lever or a latch of some kind. And this would allow somebody to, if you had these cinched right up against the recliner, to open this, trigger your latch, close it, and you're back in business. And the other strength about this particular product is similar products that allow you to do things in a recliner, such as like a table tray, or it's a medical tray, which is kind of like the U on wheels where it kind of slides over you, or just a board across the arms, which is what I ended up using. The problem is when you want to get off the recliner, you have to actually move these things and kind of get them out of your way, have a place to seat them, and they're really not anchored anyway. The strength with this particular setup is that as you have these arms with this pole that's mounted to, when you want to get up, you can simply move the pieces away, get up, go about your business, sit back down, pull them back in, and you're ready to go. And so that's the basic demonstration of the product. And I personally really like this. It was a really interesting project to work on and resurrect for myself. So during the design phase of the recliner desk, these are the kind of the basic diagrams that I use to kind of hash out the design and what I wanted to do. And as you can see here, you've got kind of this basic U structure with this telescoping pole where you would mount things to with this base. And that was kind of the basic design that I started with. Here it is again, only this time I added the second side to it. And this was kind of the ideas for mounting a keyboard arm or a monitor to that particular pole. And obviously here's the base and that's attached to that would provide the counterweight necessary. Or things like a tablet or an iPhone. The beauty of this particular desk is that it can mount anything. And as devices become, tablets and phones and whatever else, Apple wants to think up, could be mounted in some way to this structure. The structure is there, so we would provide some type of a new arm or an accessory that would allow users to use that product in the recliner attached to the desk. And again, this was kind of the idea with the end table would have different colors to give it a more aesthetic look, and a lamp could be added to the top of the pole so it didn't look just like a mounting pole. It would actually provide a normal aesthetic function. And this was kind of an alternative idea that is still an idea, but it was a desk that kind of came around to the side, but when you sat down, it was in a curved fashion, so the end tables would be curved, and when you sat down, you could close this in front of you and kind of create a 360 degree, well, that's a little too much, 180 degree workspace. So the LazeWorx recliner desk required some SWOT analysis, and as a company, these are the strengths, the weaknesses, the opportunities, and the threats that we saw as we researched the product. And obviously SWOT would stand for SWOT. For our strengths, workspace, feature addition, superior design and quality, personal experience, and singular focus. The strength of this desk is that it provides more workspace than most products that you would use in a recliner, for like a table tray or something across your lap. Because it has two sides to it plus the piece that comes in the middle. Feature additions. We already touched on this, but as new technology comes out and new devices come out, we can add features to the existing structure that would expand the use of the product. Superior design and quality. Most of the products out there, such as like a table tray or something going across your lap, is plastic, it's cheap, they're usually very inexpensive. This desk will look great in a room, but it would also be made of high quality materials is what the goal is. And we're still trying to figure out, can you manufacture something on that scale and still make it a viable product for the market. Personal experience. Because I have my own experience using such a product, I can test this out, and because I already know some of the caveats and pitfalls of the product already, I can vet out engineering and manufacturing flaws before we even take it to a customer. And singular focus, I believe this is a strength because this is the only product we're working on. So all of our resources can be devoted to this product. This also, however, could be a weakness. If the product fails, obviously so does the company. Or we would have to find new products, which we will touch on later. For weaknesses, limited resources, limited engineering knowledge, limited manufacturing experience. I'm no engineer, I'm no manufacturer, I'm an IT guy by trade. I do not have experience in these things, nor do I have a vast amount of personal resources to give to a bank or to the company in order to come up with design ideas and vet out markets. So that is definitely a weakness. The lack of product awareness. No one knows about this product. We would have to spend some time and some resources making customers aware that this product even exists. Product line limitations. Again, as a company, this is our only product. We would need to research and find new products if we wanted to have more of a depth of a product line. And recliner variations. From a manufacturing standpoint, not every recliner is the same. Some are a little higher than others, some rock, some are wider than others. It may not be possible from a manufacturing standpoint to be able to come up with a universal product design that would fit every recliner. For opportunities, e-commerce is the big one. That's going to be our main customer touch point. That's where customers will order and interact with the company. Trade show exposure for customer awareness, and this would also go for retail partnerships. This is where we would place product demos, and we would engage with customers to let them use the product so that they can then in turn go to the website and talk with us and give us the specs on their recliner. I believe that the only way to really do this is going to be to have a customer give us the dimensions of their recliner so we can give them the correct product size. So we would need an interaction point with the customer at the time of ordering, and that's where the e-commerce would come in. Universal design. Because of the way the desk is designed, where it's mounted on a base, if that base could be restructured in some way, it's possible that the same product could be used as, say, an end table for a couch or a futon or a bed. So that's a possibility that we can explore. And then accessory partnerships. People like Ergotron have already mastered the keyboard trays, keyboard arms, and mounting arms for the devices we're looking at. It may be possible to partner with these companies so that we don't have to reinvent the wheel when we're doing it. Threats. Dependence on recliners. This is a huge one. If the recliner goes away for whatever reason, the desk is not useful anymore, which means that LazeWorx would need to find new products in order to stay in business. Simpler solutions. Obviously, this product is going to be more expensive than, say, a tray table. We're thinking around the $500 mark. Customers may not be willing to pay that premium for this type of product. This would involve market research on our part before we even go to manufacturing to see if it's even something customers would want. Computing innovations and ergonomics, they really go in the same. As technology evolves and as Apple creates new products, things get smaller and lighter, more mobile. There may not be a need for this type of setup. It's the strength of the setup was for a monitor, keyboard tray, large workspace, and that just may not be something that's viable in the future. And cultural perceptions as more products come out that marry productivity with exercise, this product loses its focus in that kind of a culture. LazeWorx is kind of LazeWorx is really where the name came from, and it's really designed. The product and the company mission is to make comfort productive, and in a culture that is becoming more and more aware of being on the move and getting up and getting out and doing things and combating obesity, this type of a product just may not work in that kind of a culture. And again, this would involve more market research before we even put this kind of a product out. So the break-even point for this particular product. Psychographically, I do not believe that a customer is going to want to pay more for the accessory, which in this case is the desk, than the product, which would be the recliner. Given what most recliners cost, probably around the average around $800, I figure about $500 is a good place to start for the product. And with using reverse pricing, we built in $100 of profit into that cost, and the difference of $400 would be $300 in fixed cost per unit and $100 in variable costs per unit. So at 1,000 units, which is what we initially want to start with, mostly so we can get a feel for manufacturing, we can use them as product demos and really use those as a test market. And we may even lessen that number depending on how the market research and then engineering research goes. But with those numbers, we have $300,000 in fixed costs, which is divided by $500 of the price of the unit minus the $100 in variable costs, and that equates to 750 units before our break-even point. If we do not meet that, we'll need to readjust our strategy. We may need to adjust our pricing, and we may need to adjust our marketing, and worst case scenario, we may need to fold the business completely. So we do not want that, but this product has its challenges, and the idea here is before we even come up to these 1,000 units, we would need to put a lot of effort and resources into upfront research in engineering, manufacturing, and market viability so that we aren't in danger of losing this initial investment. And before I go on, I should also point out that if we exceed those sales, then the knowledge that we learn with those initial 1,000 units, we can put forth to purchasing more, and we're tweaking our delivery network and finding more ways to sell products, and perhaps even utilize pre-ordering before we start manufacturing more. If we really hit it off and we start selling these, then through the e-commerce site, this offers us ways to connect with customers outside of our target market, which is Maine. So it is possible we could sell products that are outside Maine. And if we have states that really are drawn to the product and we get a lot of orders for, we also we're looking to expanding geographically to different segments, market segments, and changing the structure of the company to match that. So to continue with the product life cycle, we have the introduction stage, and as we touched on this, the e-commerce is going to be the main point, with partnering with local markets and retailers and trade shows in order to gain customer awareness and gain product traction. In the growth stage, and this is after those 1,000 units are sold, we're looking into continuing our local market penetration and really solidifying our foothold in that market. Expand geographically if it makes sense, and if we do, we'll repeat the same local structure that we learned in Maine. And the idea is to really solidify the process and tweak it so that when we do expand geographically, we can use the knowledge we've gained in our local target market in those other markets, so that it is as much of a cookie cutter process as possible. As the product matures, this is when we'll need to analyze different regions. If we are going to a national scale, withdraw and restructure in markets that are slow, or in markets that we're not selling in, where it's costing more money for us to actually be there than we're actually selling. And this is where we really want to get into customer engagement and feedback, and find ways to connect with the customer, find out how the product is working for them. Do they have any suggestions for improvements? Do they have any complaints? Do they have any suggestions for new product ideas? And this is where a website would come into play. And we want to use something like reclinerlovers.com is what my thought was, where customers would have ways to interact with us. And obviously the final stage is the decline stage. And the decline stage is really dependent on recliners as a whole. As long as we continue to be innovative with the design and keep up with new technologies, as long as recliners sell, theoretically, the recliner desk should be able to sell as well. So it's really dependent on the recliner market. And if the recliners go out of style and nobody uses them anymore, and the sales fall off and they eventually make their way out of the furniture industry, then obviously LazeWorx will need to look into new product ideas in order to keep the company up. Because this is our only product, this is obviously a weakness. If the product fails, then so do we. So that is the LazeWorx recliner desk. If you have any questions, please comment on YouTube below. If you love it, let me know. If you hate it, let me know. I've really enjoyed this product. I've enjoyed working on it, and I hope you've enjoyed listening to me talk about it. Have a wonderful tech day, everybody.